But I'm sure what you're desperate to know right now is what the most chronically wrong woman in Hollywood thinks of the whole Don Lemon saga. A woman who is proof that wisdom does not come with age. Take it away, Hanoi Jane.
Don Lemon is a professional journalist. He and his producer were doing their job. Nothing more, nothing less. And he's been arrested. And they'll make up all kinds of defamatory things to say about him. That's what they're doing. This is how autocrats act. We can't fall for it. We have to speak up. When a red line is crossed like this, we cannot be silent.
Let's bring in Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, Jane Fonda says this is authoritarian and a breach of the First Amendment.
So I know Don Lemon. My husband created CNN, and I will fight for their right to speak, which is guaranteed in our Constitution. They arrested the wrong Don.
Josh, what's your response to those pearls of wisdom from Jane Fonda?
Yeah, Rita, I literally can't think of a greater endorsement of Pam Bondi and the DOJ issuing an arrest warrant for Don Lemon than Hanoi Jane herself coming out opposed to it. I mean, what an absolutely mesmerizing endorsement for this current prosecution. Look, this notion that journalists in America have a higher First Amendment protection than most Americans is a common misconception. Look, I am a lawyer. I'm also a journalist. My First Amendment rights are the exact same as literally any other American in the country. Journalists have no higher or any different degree of First Amendment protection. The First Amendment does indeed protect your right to stand on a public property, stand on a sidewalk, stand in a public square. You can hold up your dumb Ford Foundation, Tide Foundation, stupid open boroughs, George Soros Fund sign, abolish ICE, DHS is fascist, arrest the orange man, whatever. Who gives a crap? You can do that. Here's what you can't do. You can't trespass private property. And even more than that, we have federal statutes on the books that specifically criminalize doing this when it comes to a house of worship. This is back in the good old days, back when there was bipartisan agreement that, speaking of the First Amendment, Hanoi Jane, you know what else is there? Oh, yeah, the free exercise of religion. And back in the 1990s, back when Democrats were still relatively sane, you had the Bill Clinton-led Democrats lead this bipartisan charge to pass the FACE Act, a 1994 statute that specifically criminalizes doing exactly what Don Lemon and his bunch of not-so-merry left-wing hooligans did in St. Paul, Minnesota a few Sundays ago. You can't disrupt a house of worship there. Frankly, Rita, we've heard how many times in the past few years this refrain from Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and the rest of what I used to call the Democrat lawfare complex. How many times do we hear this refrain that no one is above the law? I agree with that statement. No one is above the law. The question is Don Lemon above the law? Pam Bondi and Donald Trump say no. They're totally correct on that.